Hi everyone, welcome to my series of videos on how to grow in self-confidence depending on your Enneagram type. So far I've covered types 3 and type 1, and today I'm going to talk about Enneagram type 6. So all about that in the next few minutes. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's dive in. So, something that I mentioned in my previous two videos in this series is that I am going to mainly talk about growing in self-confidence for people who are an Enneagram 6 or have a strong Enneagram 6 component, either as a wing or as part of their tri-type. For these people, the things that I share in this video will be the most helpful. However, I am a strong believer of the fact that each Enneagram type has a lesson to provide us with, has something to teach us. So we can learn from all 9 Enneagram types, because to a certain extent, we all have parts of ourselves that are related to all the 9 Enneagram types. It's just that some of them are much stronger than others. Our core type is stronger, and so on and so forth. So, diving into it. Enneagram 6 is part of the thinking triad or the head triad, which means that one of the main concerns of this type is the idea of safety and security. How can I stay safe and secure? How can I protect myself from danger? Well, by trying to find ways to predict the future, by trying to find ways to prepare for all the negative scenarios that could happen. And one of the reasons why Enneagram 6 individuals are also called the skeptic, the loyalist, is because they are people who tend to overthink a lot. They tend to be in their heads a lot because they have this belief deep down that if they prepare in advance for all the possible scenarios that could happen to them in the future, for all the negative things, all the dangers that could come up in the future, then they are safe and secure. And of course, this takes a lot of energy from someone who does this. If you're constantly overthinking and constantly worrying and constantly anxious about things, it will inevitably be very costly, and you will struggle with self-confidence, you will struggle with feeling comfortable with yourself and your life, and you will struggle the most with relaxing. Most Enneagram 6s that I know are people who tend to be very on edge a lot of the times, especially if they haven't yet gone to therapy or they haven't invested more in their development. But even those who have, of course, sometimes still have moments where they slip into old patterns. Now, something that's very important here is the fact that Enneagram 6 individuals also have a tendency to put too much faith in other people. So they might think, well, I need to secure myself by securing my position within a certain external structure. So for example, this could be feeling secure within a romantic relationship and trying obsessively to cling on to that relationship to make sure that you don't lose connection, that you don't lose that person, that you don't lose that relationship. Or it could look like obsessing over your safety and stability within an organization, a company, a team, because you feel like that is what gives you that sense of safety, security, stability, and so on. Or you could do it by focusing too much on your family or your group of friends, and so on and so forth. It can be different depending on the person. But this is the general theme. So trying to find external sources of security, external sources of protection. But at the same time, Enneagram 6 individuals also tend to be very independent people. And they don't like having to depend on others. It stresses them. So there's an internal conflict that comes up as a result of these two kind of opposite tendencies, and a lot of stress, which of course also impacts self-confidence and self-esteem and so on. Now, what can Enneagram 6 individuals do to increase the level of self-confidence and reduce the amount of stress, fear, and anxiety that they experience? The most important thing here is to understand that no matter how much you try to invest in an external source of safety, that will not help with the actual emotional source of what it is that you're feeling. So it might give you a patch. It might be kind of like a plaster that you put on a wound. You feel anxious, you feel insecure, you feel like you're not safe and you can't handle things on your own. Therefore, you attach to a person or to a company or to a religion or to a family or to a group of friends. And for the short time that comes after that, if the relationship is good, if the friend group is nice, if the company or the work that you have is something that fits you, you will feel better. But this tends to only go on for a certain period of time because it is absolutely inevitable. It is impossible that things will always go right. In a relationship, you'll have conflict sometime. At work, you'll have issues and obstacles and problems sometimes, or you might lose that job because, the economy is the way the economy is. Or your beliefs might change and you might not feel like you're fitting in a certain group. So the problem with this is that it will never really fulfill your internal need for safety and security, which means that your real source of power is finding that safety and security within yourself. Finding ways to show yourself that you can provide yourself with what it is that you need. Not 100%, okay? I'm not trying to spread toxic positivity and only focus on the fact that, well, everything that you're looking for is a skill that you have, right? Because yes, we need other people. We are social creatures and relationships are good and important and, they support our mental health. But what I am trying to say is that for a lot of Enneagram 6 individuals who struggle with self-confidence, the balance kind of goes or tips into the direction of I trust others, or I expect others to take care of me and support me and help me deal with my anxiety more than I try to do it myself. And I would recommend slightly shifting that. It's okay for others to still support you. It's okay for others to still be there for you and to contribute to your sense of safety and security. But what would happen if you invested a little bit more in your ability to support yourself? What would happen if you found more resources that you already have within yourself or that you could develop within yourself in order to take care of yourself and make yourself feel safe? Now, it's also worth mentioning that most of the times you are safe. There are certain situations and certain moments when you might not be safe, but 80% of the time you probably are safe. And for this reason, I want to suggest another technique, another tool that I've learned during a course that I did in positive psychology, specifically positive intelligence. And this is called the 80-20 technique. It's recommended for people who struggle with hypervigilance, which is a main difficulty for Enneagram 6 individuals. This technique says that basically in 80% of cases, the worst case scenario that you're imagining is kind of unrealistic. It's most likely not going to happen, or at least it's not going to be as dramatic as you think. And only in 20% of cases, the thing that you're actually worried about can happen, or will happen, more likely to say. So the first step is asking yourself, this thing that I'm worried about, this thing that I'm overthinking and stressing about in the future, is it more likely an 80% scenario, or is it more likely a 20% scenario? If you reason and you recognize that it's probably only an 80% thing, so it's probably not going to happen, then remind yourself of this video, remind yourself of this technique, and tell yourself, what's happening right now with me is the fact that my own hypervigilant tendencies caused by certain emotional difficulties, by my Enneagram type, whatever you might want to call it, are the cause for this stress. It's more likely an imagined scenario, it's more likely a catastrophizing mentality, and this is not really the challenge. On the other hand, if it is something that is more likely to be in the 20% bucket, so something that has a higher likelihood of happening, then what you can do there is go a little bit further in your train of thought. Okay, so let's say that thing that you're afraid about happens. So what? What will happen next? And go further with this line of questioning until you get to the end result. In most cases, with the exception of the cases where that thing that you're scared about is, life-threatening to you or to someone else, most things, 99% of things, are actually not so horrible if they do happen. Sure, some of them might be unpleasant scenarios and it would be nice if we could avoid them, but with most of these situations, we can find the resources to deal with it. For example, if you're afraid that you will break up with someone because you are fighting a lot with that person and you feel like you're really incompatible, and you might recognize that it's a 20% chance of happening, that it's a high chance of happening, therefore it is in the 20% group, then of course you go further with that line of thought and you say, well, it would suck if we break up because I really love this person, I want to be with them. But if we communicate, if we try to do conflict resolution and we still break up, I will be hurt, I will suffer for a while, but it's okay, I can manage it. And at the end of the line, maybe it's better this way, because if we're not compatible, then at least I know, and I can now not invest resources anymore in this relationship. Same if you lose a job, same if you have other challenges. Yes, a lot of these things are unpleasant, and we would prefer not for them not to happen, but it's not the end of the world if they do happen. And when we see these things more clearly, maybe you write it down, or maybe you talk about it with a friend, then this might help you to reduce the amount of anxiety that you feel, because you see that, okay, even if it does happen, I can still manage. I still have the inner resilience to deal with it. And then another thing that I wanted to say with respect to this is that we know from Enneagram integration theory that Enneagram 6 integrates to Enneagram 9. So it takes some of the positive qualities of Enneagram 9. So something that I think is very beneficial for type 6 individuals to learn or to develop is some sort of a relaxation practice. This could be yoga, it could be meditation, it could be breathing techniques, it could be Reiki, it could be sports, or it simply can be a ritual that you really enjoy and that really gives you peace. And it's important to practice it regularly, even when you feel good, because this is how you train your brain muscles, to learn to access that inner resource of relaxation and peace, and to kind of prepare you for the future, for those moments where you might still feel triggered and you might still feel anxious. I hope this video was helpful and that you could gather some ideas from here and be able to use it within yourself. This takes practice and it takes time. It's not something that you change overnight, especially if it's a deeply ingrained pattern. But do your best to invest in yourself, to invest in your self-awareness and to do the work. And if you feel like this is too much and you're looking for support, I offer self-awareness coaching sessions aimed at supporting people in enhancing their level of self-confidence and self-esteem. You can check that out in the description below. However, if you feel like the amount of anxiety that you feel is overwhelming, then I would really recommend to see a psychotherapist instead. They will be better equipped to support you with that. Anyway, thanks a lot for being with me. Thanks a lot for watching this video, and see you next time with another video on typology.